So I guess everyone has switched on the webcam. Attendance would have been captured by now. Today is a cargo work session. We can start. Presuming attendance has been done. Okay, I think we can start. That's our topic for today. Cargo work fumigation. Also part of the syllabus. You can have a question based on fumigation, which could be question number 5 or 6 in the part B. I'm just saying it could be like that. Somebody can confirm share screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when can be fumigation used or when should it be used? Primarily if some infestation is found anywhere on the vessel. But even if nothing is found, some cargoes do require fumigation to be done, like grain cargo, fumigation to be done. So this is the idea behind it, and it is possible that you fumigate cargo holds prior to loading to prevent infestation, even if it has not been noted. Infestation is the finding of some insects, termites, etc. in the cargo itself. So even if it has not been found, some cargoes are recommended to be fumigated. But fumigation, of course, will involve people on board also taking precautions. It is not so easy. Of course, the process is easy, but the precautions are heavy. And also you have IMO recommendation on safe use of pesticide, which is given in IMSPC, this one. IMO recommendation on the safe use of pesticides on ships. This is outlined in IMSPC. So we'll have a look at that also. The vessel SMS should contain some advice on regulations for use of pesticide, which can be copy paste from this recommendation by IMO, IMSPC. Safety precautions to be taken as per the vessel SMS, first aid and special medical treatment emergency procedures. In case of any mishappening, there should be an outline procedure in SMS regarding first aid and special medical treatment emergency procedures. Somebody inhaling it, somebody got infected, somebody got impacted by the use of fumigant. Also types of fumigants and methods of fumigation. So please remember this is something to do with cargo work paper, right? Since I take 2-3 subjects and the week goes along, it must be clearly understood right now as per timetable we are talking something regarding cargo work. Now, fumigants technically are chemicals. They, under certain conditions, will enter a gaseous state or give out gases in sufficient concentration, which is okay for the fumigation, but it can be lethal and considered detrimental, causing harm for any person exposed to it. But still, you got to do it to preserve the cargo against infestation. Grain cargo is, of course, the most impacted one. As you are aware, it has a tendency, I mean, not the cargo has tendency, but the infestation has tendency to infest themselves inside the grain cargo. So that calls for most severe or most diligent observation of fumigation. Otherwise also, fumigant could be used for any other cargo which is recognized as a cargo prone to infestation. See, ideally what happens is, or should happen is, that people are removed from the ship before fumigation takes place. Ideally, it should be done like that, but that will involve money. Anybody with experience, having been removed from the ship, put in a shore-based establishment for the purpose of fumigation to be carried out on board? Any personal experience? In past, I've had candidates who said yes, they were removed from the vessel, put up in a shore-based establishment for the purpose of fumigation to be carried out on board. That is the ideal thing. That should be the best method to prevent any accident to people. But the problem is, this will involve money. This will cost money. So it may not be a preferable method, although it is an ideal method, it may not be preferable by the ship owner. So when can it be done? It can be done prior loading. The whole hold, cargo hold, etc. is fumigated prior loading. That is possible. Or it could be done before departure of the vessel, after the cargo has been loaded. Not a preferable method, but is also possible to carry out the fumigation during the voyage in transit. This is not really a preferable method because this can involve some accidents while in transit. But those three methods here they are listed, they are okay. Any one of them can be followed depending on your SMS, shipper's requirement, and your company instructions. As I said, number three method, fumigation continued during voyage in transit is least preferred, but it can be done. It is not disallowed, so as to say. So when you are doing it in transit, then it continues during the voyage, and then ventilation is done, and the removal of residues of fumigant is removed. Until that time, you cannot say the fumigation is complete. Now, there is one recommendation, important one, that spaces adjacent to fumigated spaces, which is cargo hold maybe, should be treated as fumigated. Adjacent spaces. Since we are looking at fumigant as a gaseous phase, it may, seep in to adjacent places also. So adjacent spaces should also be treated as if fumigation has been done here also. Maybe a void space adjacent to the cargo hold, it should be treated as a fumigated space because there is a chance the gas used or evolved during fumigation may escape into the adjacent space. Now, keeping this place gas tight for the period of exposure could vary from few hours to several days, which will depend on the type of fumigant used and concentration used. Gaseous state fumigant are definitely, since it is harming means since it is killing the pest or killing the infestation, it can also harm human beings. So they are poisonous. They require special equipment and skills in application. Now, as I said, ideally this should be done shore-based establishment by shore-based people. But since it costs money, normally the ship owner will tell you to do it yourself. Now look at this incident just for sake of stressing upon the need for precaution. Latavia is a port in Ukraine. So the vessel departed here and was bound for Antwerp, not a very long distance. Latavia in Black Sea, bound for Antwerp. Wheat was loaded in all three boats. Now, this was calling for fumigation, which was done. So they did it like this. They placed 6 pipes of 10 mm diameter plastic tubes from the hatch combing to the tank tops of each boat prior to start loading. So 10 mm pipes were lowered, plastic tubes were lowered from the hatch combing of the tank to the tank top of each boat to carry out the fumigation. When the cargo had been loaded, or even as loading was going on, before that also, aluminium phosphide tablets used as fumigants were dropped on the tank top using the tubes. Then hatch covers and ventilators to the holds were closed and plastic bags were placed around the combing drains. Why was this done? Plastic tubes placed around the combing drains. Very simply to make it gas tight, not to let the fumigant gas escape. That is one way the fumigant gas can escape using it will find its way out using combing drains. So this was also sealed using plastics, etc. sealed. Now, because of the fumigant being used, fumigation in progress, the main ventilation system was closed down in the accommodation. The main ventilation system was closed down. But extraction fans from bathrooms and WC was still allowed to use. And unfortunately, a method which was not correct. Outside doors were closed. People were allowed to go out on deck. Not allowed actually, until it was necessary. Taking a proactive measure, 2 gas masks with 8 filters and 1 gas detector kit was also placed on board by the fumigators. And they had advised that cargo holds could be opened after 5 days. That is their estimate that it will wear off. So fumigators who were shore-based, they placed some gas masks, filters, gas detector kit, and 50 detection tubes delivered to the vessel by the fumigators, but also advised that cargo holds could be opened after 5 days. Now, unfortunately, as the case could be, very random, not very commonly, the crew members were not familiar with the use of the kit. Which kit are we talking about? The crew members were not familiar with the use of the kit. The gas detection kit. So no training was carried out and they were not familiar. Also, unfortunately, later on it was noticed that the expiry date of the detection tube happened during the voyage. Expiry date. Of course, it is a case study, so lessons learned must have been taken, and this is included here so that you also are aware that what can go wrong. Now the vessel reached somewhere where it is supposed to be discharging the wheat cargo, but was put to anchor. While at anchor waiting for berth, one complaint came from a seaman with slight temperature and vomit. Later on, 48 hours later, the seaman was found dead in his bed. Subsequently, a second officer was also declared sick but recovered. This is the impact of the fumigant. Unfortunately, as we see the case study, very sadly, one seaman was found dead in his bed. Now, this gas which was being emitted by the fumigant had no odor, was odorless, but tests were carried out. High concentration of phosphine gas, which is a fumigant, was detected in spaces within the accommodation. Do follow this. It is something sad but very interesting how impact can be made. This Dickey seaman, his cabin was on the mid-deck level, in front of the accommodation next to the master's office. The lining of the office of master was pulled down, and a small corroded hole was found in the front bulkhead. This was on the common boundary with the aft ventilator from aft cargo hold. Steel plate was the common boundary where the corroded hole was the common boundary between the aft ventilator of the aft cargo hold, the aftermost ventilator of the last cargo hold. Corrosion over a period of years had made a small opening for the gas to escape inside the accommodation. Now what is happening is, if you remember, we read the WC was still in use, extractor fans in WC were also used. The extractor fans from toilets create a slight under pressure which was sufficient to draw the gas and escape into the cabin, where there was an opening. So subsequently, the phosphine gas escaped into the cabins, or rather cabin of this seaman, because he was sharing the cabin on the main deck in front of the accommodation. And then the inevitable happened. So this is how a fumigant can impact safety concerns. Some safety tips. There should be a nominated fumigator in charge. This should be a person coming from the fumigation company, and he should provide a documentation to master, proving first of all his competence and authorization why he's there. He should prove his competence and authorization. After all, we are looking at fatal incidents because of fumigation. Again, a clear instruction by the fumigator in charge should be provided, outlining even the fumigant to be used. Then he can go ahead and discuss or maybe keep everybody aware regarding hazards to the human health involved with this fumigant. It is very important to know what type of fumigant you are using. Very important, because in case of an accident where you are trying to seek a radiomedical advice, the first question asked by a sure-based doctor will be, what did you use as fumigant? Then he can see what gas was involved and try and work out a medical emergency reaction. So it is very important that the type of fumigant is known to the vessel. It is not only enough to provide breathing masks for seamen, but also demonstration of same. Accommodation spaces should be checked. Also, like in the case study, not to be penetrated at all. No hole should be drilled. No hole should be drilled and should be carefully assessed that hidden isolated holes are not there. Along with it, there should be a clear warning to the crew and everybody on board about warning posters placed at the at all entrances to which places have been identified to be dangerous. As we said, not only the cargo hold, adjacent places to cargo holds where fumigation has been done should also be treated as if that has also been fumigated. The precautions, safety tips, safety hazards should be same for adjacent spaces. Not only that you do all these precautions, really speaking, with all people involved, you should carry out a risk assessment and a toolbox meeting to make everyone aware. That is also going to ensure that in case, unfortunately, some incident takes place, the vessel can prove proactive action, proactive measure by carrying out RA. Over a period of years, you will agree with me, RA has become an integral part of ship operation. Any operation, critical operation, or not even a routine operation, must be accompanied by a DRA, detailed risk assessment. And this is definitely a critical operation, carrying out fumigation on board with people on board. So RA should be done. When you do RA, Not only will you take measures to mitigate risk, but also you will have people fully aware that something is going on. At least they will keep a lookout for it. They will take precautions because RA will involve you as chief officer trying to drill into people that they should not go out. If they want to go out, it should be only for when instructed to do so and wear gas masks. Now, wearing gas masks is a method of mitigating risk, which is present. Obviously, the ship, which is master, will have absolute discretion whether or not the vessel is to be fumigated. He will also have an input and he will voice his concern in the manner in which the fumigation is performed. And in transit fumigation is actually not preferred at all. There should be somebody which is normal now after ISPS, a guard at the gangway to prevent access to vessel which is under fumigation. In fact, the posters you are placing inside accommodation, one copy should also be there on the entrance of the gangway. It should be a clear warning that the vessel is under fumigation and toxic gases are in use. Not only you are putting this in accommodation, you are making aware everyone, but also it should be displayed at the gangway itself, maybe even at the bottom platform to prevent people coming. You may have an issue regarding fumigation carried out in port. Yes, you may have an issue. You may have a situation where you're carrying out fumigation while the ship is in port. But in this case, the vessel cannot be permitted to leave without a gas-free certificate. And also, it is recommended crew to be landed ashore prior to commencement of fumigation, and then to return only after authorized people have issued a gas-free certificate. Not recommended at all, as we have seen fumigation in transit, unless totally unavoidable. This is providing some threat to the crew's health because, as it is, you cannot take full precautions in transit fumigation, and then if something happens, because you're already on your way, you cannot take rear guard action. Not only that, if a fumigation has to be done in transit, then it is recommended that the flag state is consulted. They are informed, they are consulted. There are recommendations in IMO, IMSPC regarding grain under transit fumigation that contains advice what methods to be used and what safety precautions to be taken. If fumigation has taken place during transit, then when you arrive at the discharge port or when you are coming inside, you will have to notify the harbor master and the authorities that fumigation of the cargo has taken place in transit. This is very, very important. You need to inform. You need to inform the port authorities. The vessel arrived here has conducted fumigation in transit. Actually speaking, If you have carried out this one, cargo holds, transit fumigation, or maybe even normal fumigation, the entry into these spaces must be accompanied by what is called a procedure for entry into enclosed spaces. It should be treated as enclosed space as it is. Cargo spaces are supposed to be treated enclosed, but when fumigation has been done, then more implementation of this. The space to be treated as enclosed space, and all checklists, all company regulations to be followed as if you are entering an enclosed space. Particularly important if the cargo hold has been fumigated. As it is, my IMO recommendation, cargo hold is supposed to be treated as enclosed space. But if fumigation has taken place, then it has become more rigid. So there is a definite manual which talks about this. Of course, it could be your SMS manual also with regards to animal feed materials, with regards to some regulations from PNI clubs. PNI clubs are involved here, and also the IMSPC. Let me assure you, if by any chance you are coming in to USA for a charge of a fumigated hold or ship, there are concerns, definite concerns, because in these places requirement of the country is even stricter. Ventilation is another concern regarding fumigated hold, because when you're ventilating at time, you're exposing people, because ventilation will involve replacing of the inside hold air with outside air, but then some is released from the hold, so that is also a concern. For which purpose you will need to carry out uh, by your gas detector kit, firstly the concentration of the gas inside the hole before you start ventilating. It may be necessary. It may be necessary to ventilate because of the MSTS or the requirement of the shipper. But then before you start it, you will need to check whether it is under control, the gas emission. So much so that some countries require, after reach over there, any retrievable fumigant residues, which could be planted, which could find their way into bags, sleeves, blankets, etc., should be stored away or maybe discarded. So that is regarding this, but more importantly, we just need to have a look at the guidelines from IMSPC regarding it. So you can note down the circular number, just a quote unquote, in case of a question. That gives a good impression. This one. Circular MSC.1/circular 1264 (27 May 2008). This is included in IMSPC. It is titled Recommendation on the Safe Use of Pesticide as Applicable for Fumigation of Carnivores. So this is contained as recommendation, and this is how it goes. Recommendations for the use of pesticide in ships applicable to fumigation of carnivores. This is our topic. So Maritime Safety Committee (MSC) recommended and approved this. This supersedes some other circulars. That is not important. We are not really interested in what superseded what, because we are only interested as to what should be the recommendations on the safe use of pesticide. Insect and mite pests of plant and animal products can enter cargo holds with goods, which is cargo introduced infestation. That is called. They can be, introduced from mite pests, plant and animal products. So that is how pests are introduced. You are well aware of that, no problem. But what we are looking at is prevention of infestation is the best method. Prevent infestation instead of doing fumigation, which you have to do maybe, but if you prevent infestation, that is the best method. So one recommendation, this is coming from IMSPC, ship's cargo holds, tank top ceilings and other parts of the ship should be kept in a good state of repair to avoid infestation, which means no cracks etc. where mite or pest can hide or can find its way. So maintenance is the first thing. Then comes sanitation, clean housekeeping, good housekeeping, etc. But maintenance, to make sure that you do not provide safe haven, HAVEN, safe haven to pests. So maintenance done, which is requiring to carry grain cargoes, boards, ceilings, they should be completely grain tied. And please remember, this also, boards, ceilings, etc., to be used inside the hold are also put under fumigation. Then comes cleanliness and good housekeeping. That is also a method for controlling pests. Instead of dealing with the infestation itself, what we are looking at is prevention of it, which is very important. Precaution is better than cure. So cleanliness, good housekeeping, this will contribute towards prevention of infestation. Now this is also important. When you're doing it, whatever material has been collected during cleaning should be disposed of or treated, but mostly disposed of, so that insects cannot escape and spread to other parts of the ship. Please remember, in most of the countries, especially US, Canada, etc., This kind of material which has been collected during cleaning cannot be landed. It has to be done under correct supervision for de-infestation themselves. These are some important recognized sites of infestation. Tank top, ceiling. If there are cracks between ceiling boards, food material may be forced down the underlying space and then it can serve as a infestation area. That is why good housekeeping is very important to prevent it. Twin deck center lines, wooden feeders, all they are all sources of places where infestation can take place. You may just make a small note of this. You don't need to know intricacies, but you should know if you are answering what could be main sites of infestation as outlined in IMSBC. Insulated bulkheads near engine room. This, as we had seen in the case study, this can be a source of infestation because there are cracks and then this can prove or this can help to serve as a place for insect breeding. You use cargo battens. You will discuss this when you do grain cargo battens. This also provides an ideal place for lodging insects. Bilges, very important, bilges. You see, some cargo which is prone to infestation may find its way into bilges. Then these bilges are susceptible because insects will now accumulate here. For them, that is food. For them, it is a source of food. So bilges also can be a source of infestation if not kept clean. Some other places, corners, services, cracks, rusty scale, shifting boards, damaged material. अच्छा एक बात बताओ, I think you are aware of this. The dunnage you use, dunnage, maybe not wheat cargo, not grain cargo, dunnage may be used in any cargo, dunnage to spread the weight of load. This dunnage, if you are discharging, not discharging dunnage, if you are discharging cargo, maybe in West Coast or Canada, etc., you're supposed to have a de-infestation done for dunnage itself. Have you undergone that? Dunnage itself should be uh, insect free, otherwise you cannot use it. If you are not aware, then please be aware that this is a requirement for advanced countries. They want dunnage also to be de-infested, fumigated prior use. Right? Just keep it in mind because many times this will occur. Where once you have reached the port of discharge, the port authority might ask you for dunnage certificate, fumigated dunnage. So then some methods of fumigation as per IMSBC, chemical control. Basically divided into two classes, contact insecticides and fumigants. Now it will depend on the type of commodity to select this and will also come from shipper's declaration. He will recommend which type to use. Fumigants, most commonly used, they act in a gaseous phase. They may be applied solid or liquid, but then gas arises. So for this purpose, the space where it is being used has to be rendered gas tight for the period of exposure. This could be few hours to several days. So fumigant gases are poisons, definitely poisonous, and require special skill or equipment for application. This should not be done, as we discussed right at the start, should not be done by the ship's crew. But due to paucity of money, saving money, cost cutting, it may be insisted that ship's crew do it. Very frankly, as we talked about it, fumigator in charge is of course a person designated by the company, fumigation company, but evacuation of the space under gas treatment is almost mandatory as far as MSBC is concerned. It should be, and it is necessary in most of the cases for the whole ship to be evacuated. Then you have this guy who's called the fumigator in charge. He's the one who has all the information and he should be providing documentation, etc. Let's have a look at this one for whole ship to be evacuated 3.3.1 100. Now, not only that you carry out the fumigation of the empty cargo hold, but not only that you remove people from board, but you also need a gas-free certification before you leave the board. Gas-free. So prior to the application of the cargo hold in the cargo holds, the crew should be landed, remain ashore, and ship certified gas-free. Only then they are allowed to board again. Watchmen posted to prevent unauthorized access. Of course, no unauthorized person, which is more or less done because of SPS, but when you're carrying out fumigation, you must ensure this also. This can take heavy toll on finances if somebody from outside is infected by or impacted by the fumigant, who then a lot of money is involved. Money is one thing, the person may be also impacted. Health concerns is also another thing. Now, entry into a space which is under fumigation should never take place. Categorically, never take place unless an event of extreme emergency. But let me insist that it should never take place actually. There can be no further emergency. If it is imperative, then you will have to wear adequate protective equipment and safety harness, lifeline, etc., treating it like an enclosed space, and then lifeline to be tended by a person outside the space who should be similarly equipped. Means he should also be wearing mask, lifeline, safety harness, etc. Person going inside is equipped, PPE. But person outside tending to the lifeline should also be equipped like this. Why do you think so? This is a concern as we were talking about fumigation during transit. Of course, this has to be done with a clear understanding from owners, charters, and all parties. It is not a sole discretion of the vessel itself, but everybody involved, owners, charters, should be consulted and made aware that you are going to do this. The charters have to inform the next port that fumigation was done during transit. Flag state administration should be consulted, informed during in-transit fumigation, and this should be done only in sealed spaces during voyage, only in sealed spaces. And then, of course, aeration is also required to be carried out to get a fumigated gas-free space. One very interesting fact outlined in MSPC, which I fully agree. A ship may be required to sail at a time earlier than anticipated, than when fumigation started. In these circumstances, potential hazards may be greater. You have got a ETD. You got a ETD. Vessel is under fumigation. That is okay. But you got a ETD. 15 September 2021, 10:00, 10:00. You got a ETD. But it is possible that due to some unforeseen circumstances, you're asked to depart earlier. So this is what will be a special concern if the vessel is being fumigated, because now you had estimated the ETD and you have given the time for proper ventilation for this ETD. If it is brought earlier, then we got a concern. This can project potential hazard. Very importantly, training for all members, but at least two of them should be done. Proper training for use of the gas detection kit, for use of the equipment itself, and how to get the space gas free. Training is absolutely vital. So that is how it goes. We will still continue, no problem. We'll continue. Uh, okay, we take a Kit Kat, coffee, and meet again at 1015, 10:15. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So you may note down some precautions to be taken for fumigation, which could be, under discussion in the question paper. Firstly, there should be information in the relevant data sheet, safety data sheet. Information in the relevant data sheet. People should be familiar with this. One precaution. Instruction for use. This is one. Information in relevant safety data sheet of the fumigant in use. Instruction for its use. Recommendation from the fumigant manufacturer. Methods of detection. Behavior, hazardous properties, etc. This is another safety precaution. And very importantly, special medical treatment and emergency procedures in case of symptoms. Going further for safety, for precaution, gas detection equipment with dedicated fresh supplies of service items. This should be on board before you actually start. The occupational exposure limits as set by the flag state and regulations for working conditions. I hope you're just noting down some things. Precautions for fumigation. Instructions on disposal of fumigant material, residual fumigant material, जो बच गया है, how to dispose it of. You are carrying respiratory protective equipment, but the caution says that you should have additional 4 sets of respiratory protective equipment. MAFAR, Medical First Aid Guide, including appropriate medicines and medical equipment. This has to be confirmed that you are in board. You have this on board. Yeah, somebody saying something. Then included in precaution will be the point that a fumigator who is in charge should notify master and vessel of the space which contains cargo holds to be fumigated and the fumigant being used. Along with it, it should be ensured that surrounding areas are checked for safety regularly during the application. Surrounding areas should also be checked. Leak test. After application of the fumigant, initial check should be made. This is also a precaution. After application of the fumigant, initial check should be made for any leak, which is, if detected, it can be sealed immediately. There is no point waiting for a leak and then trying to take action. You should make an initial check after start of the fumigant application. This is also very vital. After the application of fumigant, the ship should be delayed in port alongside at a suitable berth or anchorage to allow a period for gas in the fumigated holds to reach sufficiently high concentration and detect any possible leakage. Sometimes the fumigant itself requires maybe 4 to 7 days for recirculation to reach a high concentration, and then leakages can only be detected at that time. So until that time, when a high concentration has been reached of the fumigant and to detect and leak, the ship should not sail. For the purpose of detecting sources of leakages and determination of the leakage and sealing it. Once this has been done and the fumigant in charge is satisfied, he should furnish a written statement. Gas in the holes has reached sufficiently high concentration because he's got the equipment. He can determine what is the concentration of the gas now to detect any possible leakages. He is ensuring or he is declaring that he has now tested again against leakages. So first thing he will declare is the gas in the hole has reached the appropriate high concentration level to detect any possible leakages. Along with that, he will also certify that spaces adjacent to the treated hole has been checked and found gas free. He is to train people. He is to interact with ship's staff and make them conversant with the use of gas detection equipment. Then he is making a statement also that he is fully conversant. People are fully conversant with the use of gas detection equipment. This is very vital. Unless people are conversant, unless people are trained in the use of gas detection equipment, there is no point providing a gas detection equipment on board. Suppose there is a requirement for the vessel to sail out, maybe because of commercial pressure, after the application of fumigant, then after sailing, the fumigator in charge should remain on board to such a period to allow the gas to reach sufficiently high concentration for the purpose of detecting any possible leakages, or maybe until the fumigated cargo is discharged, depending on the agreement with the ship owner, etc. He should be there on the board, the fumigator in charge, to allow the gas to reach high concentration level and detect any possible leakages. If for this purpose he has to remain until the cargo is discharged, that is also possible. But before he leaves the vessel, the fumigator in charge should ensure that the ship is in safe condition, no gas leakages are present, and he should furnish the master with a written statement that everything is in order. A careful check again should be made once everything is declared done for possible leakages. Very, very important because this is the only way a person on board can get harmed or by fumigant will be possible escape of the gases. Safety checks. Except in emergency, cargo holds sealed for fumigation in transit should never be opened. If necessary, then at least two persons should enter, or should be one is entering, one is standby. Both should be wearing proper protective equipment, including self-contained breathing apparatus (SCBA). It is not only important for the person entering the cargo hold fumigated for wearing SCBA, also the person standby. He should also be equipped similarly. I had a small interaction with you. You did not respond. Why should the person who is standing by wear the same thing, same PPE? Very simple, because he may be required to attend. At that point of time, he should not be looking for SCBA. He should not be looking for PPE. So he should be properly equipped just in case he is required to enter to assist. By law, it is important that the vessel master informs the appropriate authority of the destination port that vessel has been fumigated, including the type of fumigant. Countries where the port of discharge or the port of call is, they will establish procedures for their stevedores or longshoremen to enter. They will have their own procedures which has to be followed. All these are precautions to be listed as precautions. The initial discharge may be of bulk cargo which has been fumigated, can be done by crabs, can be done by evacuators. It's okay. But in the final stages of discharge, when people need to enter cargo holds, this entry can be only permitted upon verification that the cargo hold is gas free. And not very important, but of course systematic. Once everything is done, completion of discharge, then warning signs which have been pasted should be removed. But again, my personal suggestion, delayed even for some time so that you are creating a buffer. Don't be in a hurry to remove the warning signs, but they have to be removed anyway. So each country, flag state, etc., they will have their own regulations on pesticide use. We'll have a look at the type of pesticides, just as a matter of information only, the types of pesticides which can be used. But the use of pesticides can be limited by regulations and requirements. At the flag state or the country, so not flag state, the country of origin where the cargo is loaded, or the country of destination where the cargo is supposed to be discharged, and the flag state of the ship, of course. Do you remember what these can be called? Country where cargo is loaded, country of port of destination and flag state. Together, what are they called? We have talked about it. What can be they addressed as? Together, what can they be addressed as? Many times it will appear in discussion, in your cargo or paper, etc. What can these three places or countries be addressed commonly? Country of loading, country of port of discharge, and the flag state. Together they can be called as. I'm not saying it because I need you to remember it. What can they be collectively called in one single word? Well, candidates, please remember these things because these are simple things to remember. They are together, all three of them. They are called competent authority. Any one of them can be a competent authority. These three. All these three together they can be called competent authority. In general, careful handling maybe by trained people as far as possible. Medical advice, MAFAC available, package instructions. Actually speaking, not here, but just as an afterthought, maybe from the MAFAG medical first aid guide, in case you are bored using a Fumigant, you can take out printouts of the relative pages, the applicable pages, maybe Xerox copies, but nowadays everything is available in soft copy. You remove printouts and keep it posted in conspicuous places so that people don't have to rush to medical guide. They will have it handy. What do you say? The relevant pages from MAFAG, medical first aid guide, for accidents involving dangerous goods, the relevant pages for fumigants. You can keep printouts, docketed, and handy for anybody to use. Maybe you can take 3 copies: bridge, cargo control room, and ECR. And of course, I'm very sure that you have reached a conclusion that before you actually do this, you will be doing the toolbox meeting or carrying out a risk assessment in which you will make everybody aware that these are the printouts and this is where they're kept. This can go as a precaution, although it is not mentioned here in what we are seeing in the shared screen, but this can go as a precaution to take relative applicable printouts of the medical first aid guide talking about the fumigation and ill else and keeping everyone posted. Docketed, kept in conspicuous places for anyone to lay hands. Are you in agreement with this? Well, you can write it down for precautions, even though you may not be in agreement, it is not going to cause any harm. Now we come to fumigants contained in the MSBC only. The Appendix 1, which talks about fumigants applicable for shipboard use, suitable for shipboard use. Again, it is not necessary for you to remember these fumigants, but you should be aware that a list is available in the MSBC. If you want, you can make a small note, but definitely it is not required to remember them. More importantly, it is required to remember how you can obtain this information. So these are the lists of fumigants against insects in an empty cargo hold. Followed by fumigants against insects in loaded or partially loaded cargo holds. Some information on fumigants like methyl bromide is a fumigant. This is used in situations for rapid treatment of commodities or space. It should not be used where ventilation is not adequate. It should be only permitted to be used when ship is in confines of a port, so that rear guard action can be taken for anybody getting affected by it. When you are going to use this, then prior to discharge, ventilation must be carried out, forced ventilation if required, to reduce the gaseous residues below the occupational exposure limit set by the flag state. That is methyl bromide, but used of course where rapid treatment is required, but not to be used for in transit, and also if done, then the ship has to remain alongside or at anchor to disinfest before discharge once crew member disembarked. Phosphine, another fumigant, phosphine, very commonly used. This could be used for in-ship transit also, or at berth. If we remember the case study, this is the one which was used where the seaman got affected. When we talk of phosphine, this involves producing phosphine gas. That is a significant risk to the people who may encounter. So all waste and residues should be disposed of in appropriate manner, either by incineration, very important, or by disposal on shore. Of course, you cannot throw it at sea. That is for phosphine. which will come in form of tablets, phosphide tablets, evolving phosphine gas. But when you're looking at this one, this application of phosphine, then prior to discharge, ventilation has to be done, forced ventilation if necessary, so that the gas levels of phosphine gas are reduced below occupational exposure limit, OEL, occupational exposure limit, which are the values set by the flag state. These are some examples of fumigation signs which you can put, of course, not generic, just as suggestion coming from the code itself. But recommended by the code, the size is more important. Height not less than 250 mm. Breadth, width not less than 300 mm. And then of course you have to enter all the details. Fumigant name, applied on, date, time, ventilated, and very clearly do not enter. Yeah, that will take care. Anything you want to raise for the fumigation part is not important topic because questions do keep on surfacing. 1 minute. I wanted to see. Yeah, this is what we've seen. I'm a recommendation on safe use of pesticide. But what I was looking for, just to go over it again, fumigator in charge. Yeah, fumigator in charge, designated by the fumigation company. He is the one who holds all the technical information and expertise. These are also precautions you may note for fumigation. In the precautions, you can easily make a line and write etiquette training and drills to be carried out for fumigation in progress. Each crew member involved should be trained for it. Not only each crew member involved, but could be generic drill. So your vessel SMS should contain these details. If not, then you have to get them included. Use of pesticides, safety precautions, first aid and special medical treatment. MAFAR guide, types of fumigants, method of fumigation. Please remember, it is a sensitive thing because you are exposing people to danger. So it becomes kind of concern. Sorry. Fumigation in port could be a question just put separately. Means, as a chief officer, how will you conduct fumigation of cargo required to be fumigated in port? So it could be clubbed with a question or it could be a separate question altogether. In transit, of course, is very sensitive, not allowed actually. If necessary, then many precautions come into play. What do you say? Anything you want to raise? Because this one is almost done, but I am asking you so that we can have a look at the next topic just as introduction. That will also not finish so fast, but just as an introduction. The topic is IMSPC. Are you done with this one? Fumigation? Anything you want to raise? Okay, you're quiet, so presumably this one is done, and we can at least have an introduction done for IMSPC and can continue next class. Introduction can be done now. Firstly, what is IMSPC? What is IMSPC? It is a guidance for crew on International Maritime Solid Bulk Cargo Code, IMSBC. This is the idea. That is the first thing to understand. It is only a guide for carriage of solid bulk cargo, and it is called IMSBC, International Maritime Solid Bulk Cargo Code. Now then, this was recognized because even though bulk cargo is relatively easy to carry, some accidents do keep taking place. Therefore, it was required by IMO to develop a code. They have done that. Now, this is approved. This is approved by PNI clubs, by Intercargo, and maybe even UK PNI club is one of them. Intercargo, Association of Dry Cargo Ship Owners, Intercargo. They also approve of this. To start with, there is a general requirement for carrying solid bulk cargo, which contains accepting of cargo for shipment, the loading procedure, right? Then the code has three cargo groups. This is something you have to memorize. Group A cargoes which may liquefy. Then Group B cargo which possesses chemical hazards. This is the second group on Group B. And third group is C, which is neither liable to liquefy nor possess chemical hazards. They do not fall under Group A or Group B, then they are classed as Group C cargoes. Please commit to memory this one. Cargo groups in three parts: A, B, and C. Then, of course, you have hazards associated with solid bulk cargo. Third section. Fourth section is checklist for flow of accepting and loading solid bulk cargo. Appendix 1 is there and Appendix 2 is there. This is the layout. This is the layout. Or if you want, you may note on this. Contents of the IMSPC code like this. Sections: 1. General provision. 2. General loading, carriage and unloading. 3. Safety of people and ship. 4. Acceptability of cargo. 5 is trimming procedures, right? If you want, you can note on this one. IMSPC code contents section wise. It doesn't stop here. I'm just holding on, just in case somebody is noting down. Continue. Method of determining angle of repose. Cargo that may liquefy, section 7, very, very important. Then test procedures for cargo that may liquefy, and continued material possession of chemical hazard. These are the sections. These are the sections. There has been a question and can always be one. List the contents of IMSPC code. Then this is how you will go. 1 minute, I will come back to it. Okay. You must remember this one. This you can commit to memory. The code actually is developed by MSC.268 bracket 85. That is the Maritime Safety Circular, MSC.268 bracket 85. That is a circular which talks about IMSPC code. So this one we were looking at 13 sections like this, and then appendices. You want, you can make a note. I think sections you have already noted down, and you can go ahead and note down the appendices also. Still visible? This is the circular. Adoption of IMSBC. This is the circular. We are talking about resolution MSC.268 bracket 85. Of course, this was adopted here, then many revisions have come. So this MSC is the Maritime Safety Committee who adopted this resolution. And then it continued. As you can see, objectives, annexure, IMSBC supersedes this one, Code of Safe Practice of Solid Bulk Cargo. This is superseded. In fact, the Solid Bulk Cargo Code is now included in IMSBC. So BLU code is now part of IMSBC. So I don't know, maybe you might not have ever seen it, but there was a BLU code. Any chance have you cited it? अब तो नहीं है, अब तो वो IMSBC में है, but previously did you cite BLU code? Of course, I think by the time you sailed out, you sailed. This was already abolished. The BLU code no longer exists. In fact, it is part of the IMSPC, and we will look at it separately also. BLU. What I'm looking at is this part. Properties of solid bulk cargo, individual schedules of solid bulk cargo, all this now contained in IMSPC. Right? So of course we will continue. This was just as an introduction. To make use of the time, then we will continue. Do you have any issues for this session you want to raise, including fumigation? Oh, extremely sorry. I don't know. I forgot. Could you hear me? I forgot the mic, please. We have a meteorology session in the afternoon. I think 14:30. Any concern you want me to pick up before I select a topic? Of course, we have ice still to go, but any concern in the meteorology section? No, no input. Okay. So in case you are quiet without input, then you can respond to this class feedback poll. That will do for this session. We meet again for meteorology at 14:30. Okay.